What's going on, Secondhand Talent family? It's your boy Steiner here, as always, with my co-host Ducky. Ducky, what do I want to say to the people?
What's going on, everybody?
Thank you, Ducky.
Cheers.
We have Arin from Ween Archived here with us, who has been providing all of those wonderful Ween B-sides and unreleased and unmastered tracks for us to respond to over the summer. Truly a pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. That's so
And then
funny.
when we got to interview Justin Hampton, he was like, yeah, they called me to do the reunion posters. And
yeah, no big deal.
Like, it's like the most overt of humble brags that you
I'm definitely very interested in hearing a bit more about, just as in my producer side, a bit more about the process and a bit more about how it relates to being a secondhand talent. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I would.
I'm loving all. Listen, as a Ween fan, I'm living for all of the Ween information and
this
stuff.
is why she's our producer.
But
I think a great way to wrap it around, and this will segue perfectly, Arin, into you giving us all the facts and stories that you want to backload on the end there.
Absolutely.
I would love to talk a little bit about how I see this as secondhand talent. I'm sure Ducky has some thoughts on how this is secondhand talent as well. And then I'm curious, now that we've talked about it for a little while, if based on what we have to say, if you see it as secondhand talent,
right.
I'm like, and you know what? And if it's a no, it's a no. I just want a genuine, I genuinely want to know.
It's so interesting because typically the secondhand talent that we have interviewed are people who are on the scene at a show.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to talk about this as secondhand talent, which is very much I wouldn't say behind the scenes, but
scene adjacent.
Like what you're doing. I don't want.
It's a service to the community.
Part of me was about to say has nothing to do with the concert experience, but it does, because I'm sitting and I'm listening to all of these videos and going to a show, and people at shows who are screaming what song they want to hear.
Vinny the Eel.
I mean, anyone who screams something like the mollusk, you're like, shut up, like it's the mollusk, like we're gonna hear the mollusk.
When they started playing If You Love Me, I was shaking people, being like, you don't know.
Because
that's such a good rare one.
All these archives for so long, you literally looked at me at the beginning of the show and said, I want to hear something I don't know, or I want to hear something I haven't heard before.
I would say If You Love Me pretty much falls well into that basket.
That was really cool that they played that, because that to me felt like your archive dream come true.
And the fact that they played I Fell in Love Today.
Oh my God, that was
first time
the showest ever in the world. I started screaming.
Which just goes to show that, for all the unreleased stuff there is out there, put it on an album. The fuck jam is never going to get played.
The fuck jam is my ringtone.
There's too many rational solutions for the Middle East conflict in that song for us to.
It's all hidden, baked within.
You know
what?
You really got to listen to it.
It's making me realize that if Ducky ever couldn't show up.
So now that we've had this, really, really cool discussion about what you're doing behind the scenes and the progress that you've made on this journey, and how you've gone from not even really being the biggest fan of music to, I'd said it before, arguably providing a genuine service for the Ween fan community. I mean, it's, as a new fan, as a longtime fan, it's special for me to be able to hear this. And when I think of secondhand talent, I think of, kind of going back to your answer earlier in the interview. that it's talent that's not any less, right, but sometimes overlooked.
Absolutely.
It makes me really happy to know that the Ween community is behind you on this, and that and your channel activity shows it. Like, it's not like it really, like, the proof is in the pudding, and the fact that we have people coming over to Secondhand Talent to check out the reactions to the work that you've done. I think that this is an angle of Secondhand Talent that we haven't really experienced on the show before, where you are providing this extension to the musical experience of the band. And in that vein of the Dead, in that vein of Fish, with Ween, you're carrying it out into the open, and not only not receiving backlash, you're receiving support. And that, to me, is, I think, a really cool alternative epitome of Secondhand Talent. And I think one of the lines I used in one of the reaction videos is remastering tracks to turn them into happy colored marbles for our ears. And to me, I think that's a really special perspective and place to hold of Secondhand Talent. And I'm really curious, now that we've had this whole conversation, what are your thoughts? Have that changed in the last, couple hours as we've been talking?
As far as just the general idea of Secondhand Talent, I definitely can see the reason that I'm here, because I would consider myself that, as I do lots of work supporting a band. I'm kind of built off of something else, but I want to I have so much love for it and so much love for the community that got me here, that is why I continually make stuff. One thing of note, just kind of to show that, is that the Caprice Classic tape, I have a better quality copy of it that I can't post, but there is that one compiled from assorted tracks that I can share, that I used the actual higher quality near master version as a reference to get the correct speed and the channel alignment. I'd have no reason to do that for myself, because I already have a better quality copy. The only reason I spent a few days doing that was because I wanted to share it with the community. And that's something where it's not just for myself, but I wanted to, give back. And that's a lot of what I do. There's not an obligation to do any of this, because I don't need to. I already have something, and if I wanted to, I could just sit on it, like a dragon guarding some gold coins. But you want to use what I can't share to help other people. One thing I've been doing is going through Genius, and nobody really knows this, but I've been fixing lyrics that are horrible with higher quality versions to figure out what's actually being said. Because the lyrics for like Dr. Rock were horrible before, and I have like 50 live version soundboards I can use to figure out what's being said. And I repair those ones that for 10 years have been people guessing horribly.
One of my favorite lyrical transcriptions that you've done is on Hello Johnny.
Yeah.
When you've got the whole
thing.
And you actually phonetically spell out the whole chant in between.
You know what it is? It's counting from 1 to 10 in Japanese.
Yo, get the fuck out of here. Really?
That's what it is. Yeah. Ichi ni sanshi go rokushi.
Dude.
Kichi hanchi. It's pretty cool.
That's wild.
That adds another layer to that song. It's so cool.
How did you find that out?
Well, I actually kind of heard it from somebody who speaks Japanese. They kind of told me about that, and I went through, looked at that, and it's definitely 100% what's being said. It's perfectly matches up. So that was one that I knew I had to get the correct lyrics for that out. And one that's really cool as well is Dr. Rock. There's a lyric where he says, at the start, he says Porker Derek, which doesn't make sense. People don't know what Porker is, but that was a lyric in Sketches confirmed by Diener. It's an old pod reference that nobody knew about. but it's something you can find in a lot of the lyrics there if you really look. There's lots of lyrics where you won't understand them unless you have all this context of the writing at the time and their weird in-jokes at the pod. And once you have them, you can actually figure out what's being said.
That's one of the things I dig the most about hearing the clearer versions is because you're hearing not just the instruments, but you're hearing lyrics in a way that you really weren't before, and it does provide a lot of that context. And one of my favorite things that you do,
context
message, one of my favorite things that you do with regards, with my reaction videos is when you come in and comment and provide that context. When you mentioned on Mocha that they were talking about one of Mickey's first guitar teachers.
That was on
was it Mocha, or you know what I mean?
Mocha, the thing about that song is I don't really know too much story. They played it live, but there's no audio of it. Really early 90s they did. But
there's no audio on it?
No live audio of their performance of it because it was so early. But one thing about this song that I do know off the top of my head is they were asked about it in an interview the night after the show. They're like, what is Mocha? And they just went on a tangent. They're like, Mocha, what Mocha means to me, it's a very, dark, fudgy, brown, we're all about food here at Ween. Just this big spiel, which I thought was really funny. Not answering any question about what the song is, just like what Mocha is as a food, which I thought was really funny. So I don't really know anything about that song other than it's mislabeled Mr. Mocha online, which I get why people think it's that. That's what they say, but it's called Mocha on all the tapes. And there's a rough mix of it where they overdubbed it, I guess, for the pod. They changed some lyrics from the early rough mix. Just lots of weird little things that don't matter much. But I try to leave comments when there's something I know a lot about. Ones like Matt, I have no idea who Matt is. I know they
like you can go shit in your hat, Matt. Is that
one? I know they played it on Ween Radio, if you've heard of that site. I have the one on my channel, but there was one back in the late 90s, early 2000s that Ween loved to hang out on. And it would just play random MP3s, really low quality. And Dean would do takeovers where he would play random stuff he had lying around on tape, really low quality. And those sessions, people recorded a couple. We don't have all the songs from what he played, but we have a list, and Matt was one of them, way before Caesar in 2011 was released. And one thing from those things, that's where Louise comes from. That's where Kevin the Honky comes from. I'll Wait, She'll Just Get You originally leaked that way. All these great songs that I guess if he never had this opportunity, we'd never have heard, which is insane to me. Just that these amazing songs are just like, I'll throw them out there for people to hear once and never again.
And there's Belvedere and Little Country Cottage and Things You Already Know. And
there's ones on that list that we don't have. There's one called Boston Chicken, which is another 12 Golden Country Greats song we don't have.
Wait. Okay. Time out. I know So Long Jerry was part of the Golden Country Greats sessions. Was that the other one?
No, there's one called I Got No Dark Side.
That's what I thought.
But there was a 13th Boston Chicken. Because till the last minute, they didn't have Japanese Cowboy. So that was the 12 until they cut Boston Chicken, So Long Jerry, and Dark Side and added Japanese Cowboy in for the 10. And Boston Chicken, I have the lyrics for. I got them from one guy who has it, but he won't give it to me. And the lyrics are like, I think I can say them off the top of my head. It's, I made a mess in the kitchen, the ashtray's all full. There's mud on the carpet and a turd in the bowl. Me and my buddies got wasted last night, watching a tape of a Holyfield fight. We got the dog high and he puked on the stairs. Couldn't find a rag, so we just left it there. That's the kind of song we're dealing with. It's a real country great.
That's like the finest Little Country Cottage I've ever heard of.
Dirty.
I want to hear some of these so bad someday.
Dirty.
Man, that's
a white whale.
Incredible. Country song would never mention Evander Holyfield though.
Any other stories, thoughts, tidbits that you'd like to share with us before we wrap this up?
Sure. I'll just spitfire some random interesting tidbits.
Let's
for
go.
you all.
Spitfire.
Let's see.
Spitfire
I-
session.
Is there a certain era you'd want to hear facts from? Because I have so many, it's hard to choose one kind of thing.
I would like to hear what you would like to tell us.
All right, so just off the top of my head, a few interesting things are that also I sent you an
92.
image of spiny Norman Bates so you can see. There's what is it? Stacy was the first Ween song with real chords.
Huh.
That's it. Mickey talked about that once, and they did "You Fucked Up" later in that day. There's all those early Ween songs, but they don't have chord changes. It's just like strumming and screaming. Stacy was the first one where they actually wrote a song with chords. So at the end of the demo, you can hear like clapping, like live, but it's just them and Aaron's girlfriend at the time all celebrating because they recorded an actual song. That's a pretty fun one that most people you don't realize.
Congrats, your band played a song.
Oh, a song. Which I always thought.
Milestone, man.
Yeah, you guys finished the song this time.
You did a real song.
Bad in a type.
That's why it reminds me of
Words
Bill and
used,
Ted
okay.
when they tried to start a band and they didn't know how to play their instruments. They were like, maybe we should learn how to play first, man.
What do you think inspired Bill and Ted?
Ween? Wait, is that a real thing?
I don't know.
Now, who knows at this point?
We're gonna go with that. Bill and Ted's
Yeah.
Excellent Adventure is actually just inspired by Ween.
Ween's mediocre drug fueled
It's
side track.
It's a biopic.
If you had to
Oh.
pick, sorry,
I have
go
a
ahead.
whole thing here that this is going to interest you a lot, I think. The Stallion, so I'm sure you've heard that name, everyone has, but the Stallion, you might not know who he is. The Stallion was a farmhand at the farm where Gene worked. Gene worked on a mule farm, and he would lead the mules out. There's a photo of him doing this in an old newspaper in New Hope in the early, like 90 or 89, around there. And the Stallion was apparently what they'd call this one farmhand there who would be rude to them. So there's that song Das Bullshit where they're like, you got the Stallion pissed off at us. And they're talking about this guy who was really angry. And all those songs are making fun of him by like, making him seem like this pompous jerk who's always yelling, you know who I am? I'm the Stallion, mang. And then to add on to this, there's a song that wasn't released. It's not online, but it's cut from the pod, and it's called Mule Skinner. And Dean wrote it about Aaron, and it goes, Papa Giner is a mule skinner. The boy works on the porch. And it's like this weird acoustic pod thing. It's super weird. And a month ago, I got my friend. Do you know the guy who wears the Fruit Man costume at the shows, the big pineapple?
Mhm.
I got him for his 10th show with that sign to flip it around, and it says Mule Skinner on it. And if you go to the encore of that show, Gene reads it and starts laughing. That's a good one. Then he like teases it, and nobody knows the song, so nobody noticed. But he recognized it.
That's fucking awesome. And
Nice.
what I would love to, if you
What
could,
show is that?
It's at the one at what day was it? I'll find it out. It was during the encore, and I think what were the recent shows? Wasn't there one the Salt Shed or something?
that
Yeah.
was the Oh My Dear show.
That could have been it. Might have been at that one, and nobody noticed because nobody knows the song. Goes, I'm going fishing. Have you ever gone fishing?
Because I want to hear it.
Oh, and speaking of which, the If You Love Me from that show with Glenn going ham,
Yeah.
that sounds like it could be Johnny Be Good, but it's Johnny Be Better.
That If You Love Me, it's from Chocolate and Cheese. I don't have a demo version of it, sadly. All that's circulated is the live one. There are a few songs that from those sessions that I have. There's that Concert Is Over song, if you've heard of it.
Mhm.
It's only live. I have a 4-track demo version. It's very short, but they never recorded a full studio one because Gene hated doing the voice. He got tired of it after a bit of takes, so that's why that's not on the album. It was
Which was
supposed to
weird
be
because he chose to sing the solo for this.
yeah. I don't know why he didn't want to do it. It just seems like a normal, cool singing voice, but I guess he didn't like it. It was supposed to be paired with Take Me Away, like one's the fast, crazy opener with the guy at the, CD Vegas showroom screaming, and at the end it's like he's so tired and he's telling everyone to go. It's supposed to be a pear, but they cut one half of the pear out, so you only get don't shit where you eat.
I actually, we could wind up on this. Speaking about pears, one thing that I'm
speaking about pears.
let's speak about pears.
I've never heard that before.
Most people speak about aubergines.
You know what? I've never heard a lot of the things that were said in this interview. Like speaking about pears.
One thing that I've noticed a lot as I've been listening to the tracks that you've been putting out is there's a lot of pairs. Like there's a lot of songs that kind of have a similar feel and flow to them. Like
I straight up thought you were talking about the fruit, dog. I gotta say that before you go any further. I thought you meant pears the fruit, and now you may continue.
Thank you. Well, so for example, like if you look at Pure Guava, right, I would say like Sarah and Spring Theme are kind of like yin and yang a little bit. And there have been a few that I've been listening to that you've put up where I'm like, oh, this is kind of like almost an other side, like Wash Me Down feels like it could be the prelude to what Diener was talking about, right? Saying asking wash me down and then the sun is up and I'm all washed out.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like the request before the fulfillment. And I think that duality is not something that as a longtime Ween fan I'd really ever seen or was able to recognize. So just another thing that I just significantly appreciate about the work that you do.
Lots of Ween songs have weird things that link them, even just beyond lyrics, and including lyrics. But one beyond that is Kim Smoltz and Pink Eye on My Leg. They have the same drum machine at different speeds. And what's the other thing? Witch's Tit, which is a pod thing. It has the same. There's a lyric that was reused in a Caesar song, I'm Wide Open, Lips to the Nipple, is one that you see used both times. And Coco and Albino Sunburn Girl both use the I'm an oyster and she's my pearl or you're my pearl lyric. So lots of little things that connect songs without noticing them. And I think Ween has a lot of that where they don't use a song, so they use a similar idea for another thing while still being a completely different song.
Absolutely. And there's a few, I think it was Edman that I was thinking of that reminded me a lot of Drifter in the Dark. With that. Go ahead.
It reminds me perfectly of Freedom of 76. I feel like it goes right into it. If you put them together, it's almost a seamless transition after it ends. And that's because Edmund has Dean's second guitar teacher, Ed Wilson, on it. And he co-wrote Freedom of 76. So it's his same guitar skills on both. He's jamming with Diener and Edmund. They're both doing their own guitar licks and stuff throughout. So if you listen to them back to back, it almost seamlessly flows together.
Fucking awesome. I feel like we could continue to go for.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring you back for another interview because this is just too much.
And incredibly
too much to handle.
Very much so. Looking forward to continuing the reaction.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
You maybe we got to do some maybe part of the reaction miniseries is with them and they're like, check this one out, and you're just like,
I always ask for
the whole time. No, but like on video, like maybe they're on it with you.
We'll get into all that later.
Yeah, I think that could be fun though, because then they could just throw one at you. You know what I mean?
Very true. We could do like that. We could spin a wheel.
Oh, I can make a giant wheel with like 2,000
songs.
A giant Ween wheel.
You guys kept talking about this song Kevin the Honky, and especially after she said, why is Tanner's name so white? I just kept thinking Tanner the Honky every time you guys were talking about it.
Kevin the Honky, I'll tell you one more thing. That is a very important song to me for such a weird reason. And that's because when I first got into Ween, if you go on the old forums, you see mentions of it. They're like, does anyone have Kevin the Honky? Because it was one of the things Dean streamed in 2001 that nobody had a copy of from one of
Wow.
these weird radio things. So I see all these mentions of this song, and they said it was from the Mollusk, and it was this cut, weird noise rock song. I wanted to hear it so bad because that sounds great. So I looked for who knows how long, probably a couple of years, and I finally found a copy of it from that one guy who I guess had some of the stream recorded on an old CDR. And of course I posted it. It's in low quality, but it was a very special song to me. It was like the moment I realized I could hunt for these white whales that I always wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So that's why I did that cover.
You
of
Moby
it
Dick that
recently.
shit.
I love that song. Just it's special to me, even if it isn't the greatest song ever, just the importance of it to my channel. That's why I
You
did the
Ahabbed
cover.
it. That's what I'm gonna call that now. When you hunt for
No,
something for a long
dude.
time and you find it, you
Dude.
Captain Ahab that shit, dude. You fucking
He got his polka dot tail.
yeah. You put your fucking harpoon right in that white goddamn whale.
Yeah,
Right in Moby
a
Dick.
very white whale.
Right in Moby
Yeah.
Dick.
The albino sunburned whale.
You Ahab
A
that
honky
Moby
whale.
Dicks. Okay, I'm
Okay,
done. I'm
Ducky.
sorry. It's just so. Okay, I'm done. That's funny.
And now it's time for me to Ahab my co-host. We have fun here at Second.
Yes,
oh yeah, we
it is
have fun
nice.
here.
All right. Arin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been
Yes.
an absolute pleasure. We hope to have you back on the program.
Of
Keep
course.
doing what you're doing for the Ween community. We really appreciate you.
Round of clap for Aaron.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Steiner.
For Ducky, I'm Steiner.
Stein, I'm Duck.
And this has been another episode of Secondhand Talent. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah, you know you got sugar,